All right, let's get right into it. We've all seen the sci-fi movies, right? Well, Tesla is actually trying to build that future with its Optimus robot. The promise is huge, a humanoid helper that could totally change our day-to-day lives. But that timeline? It's crazy ambitious. So today, we're going to break it all down and ask the big question. Is this all just hype, or could we really have these robots in our homes by 2030?
I mean, think about this for a second. Seriously, picture it's 2030, and instead of you folding that pile of laundry or wiping down the counters, a machine is just doing it for you. This isn't some far-off dream anymore. It's the future Tesla is trying to build, right now. But getting from a controlled factory floor to your messy living room, that's a huge, huge leap. So let's really dig in and see how realistic this all is.
So what's the big promise here? What was the whole point in the first place? Well, it's all about freeing us, humanity, from the stuff we hate doing. The dull, the repetitive, the dangerous jobs. I mean, just think about the potential. More time for creativity, for your family, for actually innovating. All because the grunt work is finally taken care of.
And this quote, right from the very first reveal back in 2021, just nails it. This was never just about building a cool-looking robot. No, it was about solving a really fundamental human problem, the sheer drudgery of so much of our work. You could say this was the moment that really lit the fuse on this whole thing.
And man, once that fuse was lit, things started moving incredibly fast. To really get why there's so much hype, you have to see just how quickly this project has evolved. I mean, what started as an idea, and let's be honest, a lot of people thought it was a joke, has turned into actual working hardware at a speed that is, frankly, kind of staggering.
Okay, look at this timeline. This is where it gets wild. In 2021, it was literally a person dancing in a robot suit. A year later, bam, we've got a clunky prototype, but it's real hardware that's actually walking. Then, 2023 rolls around, and Gen 2 is walking smoothly and handling an egg without crushing it. And now, it's not even just a demo anymore. It's being put to work in Tesla's factories sorting battery cells. This insane acceleration, this is the #1 reason people believe this might actually happen.
All right, but let's pump the brakes a little. Of course, it's not going to be that simple. Moving a robot from a super controlled, predictable factory into your chaotic, unpredictable home, that's a whole different ballgame. This is where all that hype runs headfirst into the hard, cold wall of reality.
First up, let's talk about the hands. Dexterity. Yeah, handling an egg is cool, but that is a world away from the thousands of complex things our hands do every single day without us even thinking about it. Like trying to open a stubborn pickle jar or tying your shoelaces. Trying to replicate that perfect amount of pressure and fine motor control, that is one of the holy grails in robotics. It's incredibly hard to do.
Okay, hurdle number 2, the brain, the AI. Look, the AI that can sort battery cells in a factory is super impressive, but your home is a million times more complicated. It has to deal with a floor cluttered with toys, it has to not step on the cat, and it has to adapt when you move the couch. The point is, the AI can't just be programmed for one repetitive task. It needs to be able to think on its feet and solve problems in real time.
And then there's something so simple but so critical, battery life. Right now, Optimus can only go for a few hours before it needs to plug in. For a robot to actually be useful in your home, it needs to last all day. I mean, you can't have your robot helper clocking out for a 2-hour nap in the middle of doing the dishes, right?
And finally, the last big hurdle, just actually making the things and how much they'll cost. Tesla has already run into production issues, not quite hitting its own super ambitious targets. And then, of course, you've got to factor in Elon time, which, let's just say his timelines tend to be a little on the optimistic side. Scaling up to make millions of these things is an absolutely monumental challenge.
Which brings us to this number, the cost. The initial price tag is expected to be over $20,000. I mean, for that price, you could buy a pretty decent car. And even if they hit their long-term goal of getting it under 10 grand, that's still a major, major purchase. Mass adoption just isn't going to happen until that price comes way, way down.
Okay, so we've seen the hype and we've seen the massive hurdles, but let's play a game for a second. Let's pretend they solve all these problems. What would Optimus actually do in your house by 2030? What are the things we could realistically expect it to do?
Well, based on the demos we've already seen, this list here is actually pretty plausible. Now, we're not talking about it cooking you a 5-star meal, not yet anyway. Think more about tasks that build on what it can already do. Vacuuming, folding laundry, sorting your recycling. But here's where it could be a real game changer. In elder care, fetching things, giving medication reminders, even acting as a kind of mobile security guard. That's huge.
And when you put Optimus side by side with the smart tech we have today, you really see what a giant leap this is. Your Roomba can't go up the stairs. Your Alexa can't hand you a drink. Optimus is designed to be the bridge between a digital command and a physical action. It's not just another single-purpose gadget. It's a platform that can physically move around and interact with your entire home. That's the difference.
But this kind of progress comes with a price. And I'm not just talking about money. Bringing a tool this powerful into our society raises some really big economic and ethical questions. Questions we need to start thinking about right now. This is way bigger than just making our lives more convenient.
On the economic front, it's a total double-edged sword. On one side, yeah, these robots could automate millions of repetitive jobs in places like warehouses and stores. But on the other side, they'll create brand new jobs, people needed for robot maintenance, programming, and management. The huge unknown is, will that switch be smooth, or is it going to be incredibly messy and disruptive for a lot of people?
Then we get to privacy. And this is a big one. Think about it. This robot will have cameras and sensors mapping out every inch of your house, learning your daily routine. So, who gets to see that data? How is it being used? Suddenly, your private home becomes a giant data collection device. Are we okay with that?
And that privacy issue leads directly to an even scarier security risk. Look, if your smart speaker can get hacked, what happens when someone hacks a robot that can physically walk around your house and open your front door? One minute it's a helper, the next it could be a spy. This raises some really serious questions, not just for us personally, but for national security too.
And finally, there's the human social question. On the one hand, a robot could be an amazing, life-saving companion for someone who's elderly or isolated. But what happens if we all start to rely on them for everything? Do we lose our own basic skills? Do we end up replacing real human connection with interaction with a machine? It's a genuine dilemma for sure.
Okay, so let's circle back to where we started. We've looked at the incredible speed of progress, but also the huge roadblocks and the serious questions we need to answer. So, what's the verdict? That 2030 timeline, is it hype or is it actually happening?
When you lay it all out, you can make a really strong case for yes. I mean, the progress they've made since 2021 is undeniable, and they're already putting them to work in factories. But the case for no, or at least not yet, is just as powerful. You've got production problems, that sky-high cost, and the simple fact that our homes are messy, chaotic places. All of this means it's totally possible that timeline slips to 2035, or maybe even later.
And you know, it's so important to remember that even if the 2030 timeline for our homes is a stretch, the long-term vision is just massive. We're talking about a future with billions of these robots out in the world, completely reshaping the global economy and maybe even exploring Mars for us. This was never just about doing the laundry. It's about fundamentally redefining the very idea of work.
So, at the end of the day, whether it shows up in 2030 or 2035, Optimus is coming. The progress is too fast, and the incentive is too big for it not to. So the real question isn't when it will get here. The real question is, will we be ready for it? Will we be ready for the huge changes it's going to bring to our jobs, our homes, and our lives? That's the real question we need to be asking ourselves.